close this computer, and I will share with you the whatever the file we get. Maybe I'll clean it a little bit. Okay, so I'm Alexander, and I'm a Gurman, and I represent basically in this conversation VetVittles. We make treats for dogs, we make medicine for dogs, we make a variety of products around the dogs and cat space. Uh, Maria is our new kind of acquaintance, right? And Maria does a rescue with her dog Angel and started work in Italy and trying to bring that philosophy here in the United States. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit more and talk about your cause and things that you try to accomplish.
Sure. Hi, Alexander. I'm happy to be here today. My name's Dr. Maria Gray, and I'm a founder of the American Academy of Canine Water Rescue. We train dog handler teams to save people in distress in the water. Our primary mission is to eliminate death by drowning, and to do that, we need to raise public awareness of the silent killer that drowning is. Over 10 people a day drown in the United States, and it's a completely preventable issue. No one has to drown. So we also use the dog handler teams to educate children and young adults about how to stay safe in the water. I've trained extensively in Italy, where they have over 400 operational dog handler teams. They run it's called the Scuola Italiana Cane Sabotaggio, which means the Italian School of Water Rescue Dogs. And they partner, they're a civilian protection volunteer nonprofit unit, but they partner with the Italian Coast Guard and the Italian Fire Department. And they patrol the beaches of Italy, dog handler teams that are trained, and they rescue people every year. Here in the United States, we use dogs for a lot of types of rescue, search and rescue, fire rescue, but not in the water. So I'm currently in talks with the United States Coast Guard to bring the philosophy of our Italian colleagues here to the US so that we can also utilize these wonderful dog handler teams to save people, but more importantly, to educate them so that they don't need saving in the first place.
Wow, that's an amazing pitch, and you certainly prepared, and you've probably done it a number of times.
A million times.
Dr. Gray, can I ask you a question? What are the challenges why Italy does it and we in States do not? What's the distinction?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What are the challenges why Italy has the water rescue process with dogs and the United States do not? Why is that?
Well, as I said, the United States does utilize dogs in our military and in fire search and rescue and in avalanches. We don't utilize them in the water. And I think the primary reason why is because we're such an amazing nation. We're such a big country, and we have a great deal of funding. And we know that we're great. So we have this great Coast Guard and these great lifeguards and all these jet skis. And do we really need the dogs? And what I'm trying to do is to educate our military and our local law enforcement and lifeguards that, yeah, we do. Because, for example, I live on a gorgeous lake. It's a very big lake. I share it with many other homes. There's no lifeguard out there. There's no jet ski out there. And yet I see children and adults swimming all the time. And there's a possibility. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, somebody drowned not too far from my house in an unpatrolled lake. So if we had volunteer dog handler teams willing to work for free on a volunteer basis because they're part of a nonprofit, we could be patrolling those unpatrolled beaches and lakes, because we have, just like Italy, a myriad of lakes, and these lakes are not always patrolled by law enforcement. So I think the biggest challenge is the notion that the dog handler team is somehow not as technologically advanced as a super power boat or a jet ski. Now, interestingly enough, in Italy, they use these dogs on the super powered boats and on the jet skis. Dogs actually ride on the jet skis because there are, I think it's just a question of education. There are always going to be instances where someone's in distress and a boat can't reach them. Now, you can send a lifeguard out, but that lifeguard's going to have to conserve their energy so that when they reach the victim, they can get the victim back to the boat. The dogs can actually be ridden like jet skis. They have special life jackets where the dog handler team, carefully trained, the handler, the person who's going to perform the rescue, can conserve their energy because the dog becomes the canine engine. So it's just a question of education. But I'm excited that we've made a lot of progress with that. The first time I met with the US Coast Guard, They met me in the parking lot and they were very nice, and they sort of patted my dog on the head. But then they did watch the work that I do. I sent them more information. They researched what's done in Italy. And the second time they invited me, they actually let me tour the whole base. And now they want to see a demonstration. So I believe that we are overcoming the hurdles. Another issue we have in this country is dogs are very important to most of us, but often abused, sadly, by others. So we have a lot of people who want to protect the dogs. And again, we need to educate people that having a dog working is not abusing the dog. It's allowing the dog to do its job. And the only way it works is if you foster a very strong, loving bond. All of my dogs that I train, and I train others with their dogs, they work out of joy, and they only pass the rigorous tests that we teach them. They only pass those tests if they're joyous and happy. So it's all about the love and the bond. And I think that has to be clearly conveyed to the public as well.
Sure. When we spoke about the pet, you mentioned that's definitely a concern. Okay, if I can ask you maybe a question about VetVittles, like when I wrote to you from the benefit of VetVittles, if anything strike you, anything interest you on our website, like our products, what's your opinion about the VetVittles mission?
To be very honest, I've only begun to learn about your company, and I've just started to research it. Already, it struck me that it could be something very valuable, some of the products you offer for the dogs, particularly dogs that work in the water, your joint strengthening products. Also, I believe you have, and I'm sorry, I don't know the product names, but a product designed to help the skin
Yes.
of the animal. Dogs that are in the water a lot obviously can develop some irritation. The Newfoundland, my dog, is designed and bred to be in the water, but even still, you want to keep his skin as healthy as possible because he's constantly getting wet and getting dry. And even though he is designed to swim so well in the water, there's a lot of strain on the joints. The water is very good for him, just like it's good for people. But when you're swimming miles and you're swimming fast, you're an athlete basically.
Yes.
And supplements are essential for athletes. And these are working dogs. So I see, I would be willing to put Angel on all of your supplements. The ones that leaped out to me the most would be the skin care, the skin healthy products, and then secondly, the joint products.
Thank you. What are the challenges that you face promoting your cause on the social media? Why are you not having, like, we don't have that much following right yet, and you might probably did a better job than VetVittles, but still numbers are not tremendously huge like some other charities. What are the challenges you face, and how do you combat those challenges? What do you do to make it happen? I know that you start doing the documentary now. What things you're doing that works for you to get more attention from the media?
Honestly, I wish I was better at this. Sometimes I marveled at the fact that I don't have paparazzi following me around. When Angel is in an international airport, everybody stops him. It's like Moses you're parting the Red Sea. And he's become quite famous. I can go to Boston Logan and random pilots and stewardess go, "Hi, Angel." And they're not, so he's so well traveled. Part of the problem is because it's a relatively newly formed nonprofit. Although I have volunteers and a board, I don't have enough funding to pay anybody. I honestly think if I could get a grant such that I could employ my board of directors, because even within a nonprofit, you can pay a small amount of money to people
Right.
working with you. So mostly it comes down to me. When my volunteers are present, it's usually for the actual water training. And I am a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to the computer. So at first, I think I spread myself too thin. I thought I should be cross-platform, right? Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. And I'm not the best in terms of organization, and I wish I had a partner. But since then, things have been getting a little better. I focus primarily on my Facebook page. And I cross-post between I followed this because this is what the gentleman who runs the organization in Italy does. So he has his own page, and then he has his business page. But his own page is not about his family. It's all the business. So he posts on his page and then he cross posts it to the business page. So I do this now, and it's helping. We're not in, the tens of thousands, but we're getting more and more followers. And I'm excited about that. I think one of the things I want to try doing, but again, there's only one of me, I'm learning how to do the live feeds, which are a little scary, but people seem to like them.
Yes.
A little scary
Yes.
because you're live. Not so much that I'm afraid to be live. I love to talk. I'm happy to expostulate. I can talk all day about my cause, but because I have computer issues and connectivity issues. So if I try to take you out to the lake, then suddenly the Wi-Fi cuts out and then there's no more live feed. So I need to put up, there's all these technical issues. On top of trying to get yourself out there, I have begun to get donations. I have on my website, which is not nearly as updated. I'm just accepted that it's sort of static. It just tells you about me, and then it tells and the organization. Then it says go to Facebook, because the Facebook is the one that I try to keep updated. The other thing I found is that sharing the posts of my colleagues in Italy, and they share my posts, and this helps to spread the message. But honestly, I feel that I could be exploiting social media in a better way, and I'm still learning. Social media also keeps changing. So, YouTube used to be the biggest thing, and YouTube still is a big thing, but Facebook, in my opinion, seems to be sort of dominating now. And then
I don't agree with you. I think.
Okay, you think it's the other way?
I think what you're missing here, my take on this, most of the people that you try to reach are government officials, and they are agents, and many of them are not allowed to have Instagram and Facebook and TikTok on their on their devices. YouTube, you can watch even anonymously. You don't need to have an account. So people who don't have any social media whatsoever, zero, still have access to the YouTube. Someone sends them a link and they watch that video. But if you send them a link or to
that's an excellent point
on Facebook or like Instagram, and if they don't have an account, and these people are really busy, these people are serious in real business. They are not very like, was technically savvy. They just do run huge corporations. They run businesses, so they have no time to look at funny video on TikTok. So the only way to get to those decision makers who have tremendous responsibility on their shoulders is the YouTube. None of the other platforms have that reach.
It's an excellent point. I actually, at first, I thought the U.S. Coast Guard. See, the U.S. Coast Guard has a Facebook presence, right? All of their sectors, they all have Facebook, but the individuals do not. So when I try to write to a specific lieutenant in the past, and he told me, I can't see it. Can you just send me the video? But that becomes difficult because then I'm sending individual videos every time. Whereas if I had the YouTube, I could just send the link. Exactly. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So the videos takes time, space, and it's like one. But when you have a channel and they can watch it at their leisure, so if you have a tremendous following on YouTube, people just come to you, and those people, their attention brought by other people to your site, not just you directly.
Just bear in mind that YouTube has a finite. I had a very popular cooking channel on YouTube where I would get millions of views. I had hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and I started it for my daughter, and it was called I Love to Cook a Lot. And then about a year ago, it got hacked and everything went away. Yes, and when I contacted YouTube and begged them and pleaded with them to repopulate it for me, it was a horrible process, and they were only able to give me back about 30 videos of the 400 that I had. I even spoke to my lawyer about it, and she said to me, just be nice to them, Maria, because you're not Beyonce, and they're not going to do much for you.
Even Beyonce has
and
those
the
problems.
Reason why this happens is because when you're small, well, I was working with Google AdSense, if you're familiar, so I would get a little tiny check each month because the channel was monetized.
Yes.
And what my lawyer told me was these hackers, even though I only got maybe $100, they'll hit like 1,000 people who only get $100, right?
Yes.
And so for them, that becomes quite lucrative. And
Yes.
since you're only getting $100, you're not really going to fight that hard. I'm not upset about the lousy $100. I'm sad because I'm not the best when it comes to organization. And I basically did a stupid thing. I didn't back up my stuff. So all my content I trusted to YouTube. And now it's gone.
You probably have those videos also somewhere else safe on hard drives, and you can build a new channel with the same video. It's the grandfather. That's the time that when you build it. I had experienced that also a couple of times. I lost the channel. A friend of mine lost the channel with almost like 500,000 followers, and someone in Germany just hacked his account, and it's over 2 years and he still can't get it. And he's a doctor. He's like not very savvy computer person. He's just a dentist. But well,
So I think the lesson I learned from that, and I just wanted to share with you, it sounds like you already know about this, is make sure to be vigilant in
yes,
backing up everything you do so that if this does happen, you can just snap your fingers and, repopulate.
have those videos saved on hard drive. Have multiple security access to your account, so to identification. Don't use these fancy devices additional. So there are all kind of security stuff that can be done. What worked for me, for example, I try to cross-reference to other industries. And for example, I have 700 pages on Facebook with different topics and different indexing. I can send you a link to a list of my pages. And when I post on those pages, it produces, like, let's say, it connect my VetVittles to Russia and Ukraine and Zimbabwe and all the other countries that I have pages, or particular states or particular causes or businesses. So that's just higher kind of ranking in the Google search produced, because then my brand associated with a variety of different keywords. So some kind of SEO like that, if maybe that might be helpful. I could share maybe you.
Absolutely. I noticed that when the Italian organization started reposting my videos, my followers went up, right?
Yes.
I have a lot of followers
Uh,
from Italy now because
that's what we're doing now. Like you gotta go get access to my platform, VetVittles platform, and VetVittles will have access to your platform. So some of our following will rev on you, some of yours maybe hopefully will rev on us. Okay. I think for the first kind of introduction, we have some enough information for the audience. Maybe we'll, for the next one, if folks have questions for us, we can kind of pay attention to particular cause and answer more specific questions. If you can, if I can put you a little bit on the spot, because we haven't planned that, uh, do you have maybe a funny story or sad story, something to share with the audience that either it will make them cry or it will make them laugh, as long as they build sympathy for you and for your cause with that story, that might be helpful to advance that broadcast that we're doing now.
wow, talk about putting me on the spot. I don't know
If
what is
not, that's okay.
necessary.
We can do it next time. If nothing comes to your mind
Yeah,
right now.
I like to think about that. I mean, sadly, there are 400,000 stories that are sad a year because that's the number of people who die worldwide. And that's a very sad thing because for each and every one of those individuals, their death was preventable. And had they been exposed to education and retained the message, the steps to stay safe in the water, almost everybody hears at some point, but it's actually sort of, it doesn't really, children don't pay so much attention. When you teach them in the presence of a really well-trained, gorgeous service animal, they tend to pay more attention. They want to pet the dog, you tell them they have to listen, and then they get to pet the dog. Also, you tell them that this dog can swim, but he still wears a life jacket. This dog never swims alone. This dog never drinks and swims. And it registers, it resonates better with children and young adults. So the positive thing is we can prevent the sadness if we educate people how to stay safe in the water. And God forbid they are in distress. If we have dog handler teams available, they can save those people. So it doesn't have to be sad. Funny stories. Oh, here's a funny story. So Angel and I are flying to Italy to work on our training. My big, wonderful Terra Nova in Italy, he's called, which means New Earth. Here in America, he's called a Newfoundland. And we're on this plane going over the Atlantic Ocean. And the pilot and the co-pilot both come back to my seat because they want to take selfies with my dog. And I said, gentlemen, who's flying the plane? Can you do this one at a time? And they said, oh, the plane's fine, you know. The plane. I'm like, no, just one of you go back up there and the other one can take a selfie. And everybody laughed. So that's sort of a funny story that I can
Yes.
think of off the top of
Yes.
my head.
Thank you. You move really fast. And if you two more questions, I might, if you have a minute. One question is how did COVID affect the your operations? If what are you doing to protect yourself and those who are involved in the cause during the COVID times?
Okay, well, first of all, COVID was devastating for us, as I think it is for everyone, and certainly for nonprofits or any type of business that needs to be out there in the public. Initially, when we were locked down, we couldn't even train the dogs. Because I live on a lake, I could work with Angel, but I couldn't work with my other students. I had plans to go to Italy last summer. Angel's ready to jump out of a helicopter for his next level of training to be able to conduct saves from air to water. That had to be postponed. My workshop did occur late fall last year, but we were very COVID safe. So everyone had to wear a mask. We conducted it only outdoors and we all stayed more than 6 feet away. I limited the number of participants so that we met the guidelines. And as such, we were still able to work, but obviously the ability to get donations or charge for the workshop was significantly impacted.
Right.
More important than the fact that we lost out on a lot of growth, we lost out on a lot of training. I have many students with their dogs, and my own boy himself just turned 6. Dogs don't work forever, and they deserve the time to retire as they get older.
Absolutely.
So we're losing time with these animals that we have invested so much of our love, and I love him and he loves me, but he can't work forever. So I lost, over a year of active training and work with him. And he is an awesome dog, and all of them are. They're used to rigorous work and having fun in the water, and all of a sudden, they're sort of homebound with us as well. So we had to come up with innovative ways to train together using Zoom or using videos. I was very impressed with the American Kennel Club. They came up with a new title, an obedience title called the Virtual Home Manners title. Angel was one of the first dogs to get it. So you do a series of exercises in your home and you send the videos to the evaluator. So these kinds of things were positive, but COVID, just like everyone else, it has definitely impacted us. And I think we've all learned to cope, but to say that it's not a little depressing. Oh, that's the other part. I mean, I don't think humans are meant to isolate. And so I think we've all gotten a little down. So instead of using this time to do all this great work, we get a little sad and maybe not do as much as we would do.
Yes. My next question, I will lead towards the life hack, some kind of advice. For example, I think that if you would put on a harness on Angel, like little GoPro camera, like maybe session or some small camera like between like his on his chest or his back, and film the rescue and film the productions from the eyes of the dog rather than as a human. So he make him film it rather than you or someone else. That's more authentic look to the video.
It's an excellent
Than
suggestion.
a human being filming it. It's basically like you see the world through the dog's eyes, like how it look. Sometimes I have harnesses on his back, and I'll have
I wish
harnesses.
I could figure out. I wish I could figure out how to mount it on his head. Angel
I
has
have those.
he has 3 GoPros, and the harness that I have that I got from GoPro goes on his neck, on his chest.
Chest.
The chest is useless because his chest is under the water, and
No, it's not useless. So what you need to do, I have the special light that goes GoPro light, and if you combine the GoPro light with the GoPro, the what you see in that water is so amazing because it's a little bit of light makes it much more clear they can see, and it's like a shark moving like those legs, like it's action.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's I have had young volunteers that are very good swimmers, and we'll go on a sunny day and they'll go under him, and they've gotten some nice footage.
Mhm.
But when it's just me and him, I didn't know about the GoPro light. So I was using the light of the sun, and that helps. But
Yes.
the one on his neck, I actually have some cool footage that I can um, share with you, and you can tell me what you think. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if people would like it. It's him swimming, and you see the water, and you see his front paws, mostly,
Anyway,
but you also see his
mhm.
head a lot.
It's okay. It is what just I'm just giving you an example of life hack. Maybe you have advice advice for other people who want to be in the cause and they want to save. Let's say they're not connected to you personally, and they want to have the ability to use their dogs to save life on their personal beach, or like, do you have a quick advice for them how they can train their dogs and how they can get their dogs to save their child, their personal family member from drowning, or like maybe a neighbor, anything like useful?
Sure, I can answer that question. First of all, any dog of sufficient size can be trained to perform a rescue in the water. So your cute little dog can't actually go out and rescue a person simply because it's too small, right? So maybe it
But
can
it can
rescue,
bark, it
it
can
can bark, it can
bring
alert.
attention.
The little dog can alert. That's definitely
Yes,
true. But
alert.
they can't help
Yeah,
tow a person back to shore.
true.
But they can still be trained to alert. That's an excellent point. But the first, most important thing with any type of work you want to do with your dogs, or even just for any pet dog, what you want to do is lay a solid foundation. You want to work on your love and your bond with your dog, which will happen naturally because you love your dog and your dog loves you, but you want to continue to pet and play with your dog. But you also want basic obedience, what I call safety commands. So every dog should learn how to stay when you tell it to stay so that you can prevent any possible problem. If you tell the dog to stay and he really knows it, dogs learn what's called a situational way, which means you can teach Rover to sit in the kitchen. It does, and he can do it every time. Doesn't mean he's going to sit in the living room or in the middle of New York Times Square.
Yes.
Angel can actually do a downstay in the middle of Times Square, and I can walk away from him. But he didn't come that way, right? He
None
won't
of the,
move if
yeah.
Angel's what we call bulletproof. He really won't move if a bomb goes off if I tell him to stay. Now, of course, I would get him away from the bomb, but the point is, he didn't start out that way. And your dog doesn't need to be that level of that takes a lot of training. But your dog should know to come when you call him or her. That's one of the most important and one of the hardest safety commands to train, called the recall. Oh, my dog comes when I call him. Really? So if a deer jumps over him, is he still going to come? So you want to train your dog to sit, to stay, to down, and to come when called. These are all safety commands. And if you do this, you're continuing to form a bond with your dog, but you also want to teach your dog tricks. And a lot of people think that's silly. I don't need my dog to do a trick. It's all about fostering that canine human bond and building communication. So if you ultimately want your dog to be able to jump off of a speeding boat or to run from the shore and let you ride the dog out to do a rescue, the dog first has to be able to perform basic obedience and to have fun with you, to play. It always has to be fun for the dogs. If you're doing a training session and you're saying the word no more than you're saying good boy, then you need to stop. I highly recommend whatever age you get your dog, whether it's a puppy or if it's a rescue dog that you get from a shelter and it's older, go to class. There are so many great obedience classes out there, and you want to go and work with a professional. I think it's not necessary, but I think it's important. You can certainly learn from YouTube, from books, but you need to work with your dogs, and you don't need to give up your life. You can train 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes when you come home from work, 5 minutes at night. Just make it a serious, fun training session, and use treats. Some people think treats are somehow you should not use the treat. Dogs doesn't. We get paid. You want to get paid, and that's how they get paid. And a treat doesn't necessarily mean food. A treat can be petting, a treat can be a toy, but you should always reward your dogs. So if you want to get involved in water rescue, lay down a solid foundation with your dog, love your dog, and have fun with your dog.
Dr. Great, thank you so much for your time. I think it's amazing time to do plug-in for your uh, charity. What are your social media? How folks can look you up?
Well, you can find us on Facebook if you type in the big name of my nonprofit, the American Academy of Canine Water Rescue, will pop up. We have a website, academyofwaterrescue.org. And we have an Instagram too, but I don't know the name of it, which is horrible.
I'm gonna put it in subtitles in the description, so we're gonna make sure that folks can have access to all media. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we will try to do another session. Maybe we'll get ready for you. If you write us some questions, maybe I can ask Dr. Gray to ask those questions from you, or you can leave those questions in the comments. So we can do it if you pay attention and you think it's important. Maybe we can do it like weekly or monthly, some kind of conversation on topics that matters to you. Thank you so much.